Super Monaco GP would be Volume 2 in the Sega Ages 2500 series. That would be a collection of games that would be remade or remastered based off of original arcade and classic console titles that were produced by Sega both in the mid 80s and early 90s. And another one of those titles would be Super Monaco GP, that originally would have been released in the arcade and also would have seen a release with other iterations on the likes of the Sega Master System and Mega Drive. But where this game follows suit, it takes premise and is reflective of the original title way back from the late 70s. As this game, compared to console versions, is very, very different, as it plays from more of a top-down style of perspective compared to the likes of versions seen on the Sega Master System and Mega Drive. Primarily with the Sega Master System versions, with Super Monaco GP 1 and 2, where you played from behind the car, almost like in a third-person perspective, and on the Mega Drive version you played from more of a first person point of view, as you played where you could only see likes of the driver in the cockpit. So this game here is more reflective of the original game that was created originally, which is a pretty cool idea. So it's been remade from the ground up with new visuals, different types of camera angles, new courses, a variety of different cars to choose from, but it also adds in many arcade elements such as collectibles and pickups that you can use, even gather like speed boosts and other items that you can use to hamper your opponents on the track, pretty much like in a Mario Kart style game. So you have to use anything within your power in order to gain an advantage in each race. And it also has access to multiplayer support as well, with a multi-tap if you have the multi-tap peripheral that you can play with your mates. Now, in saying that, this game, while it is playable and it is a good ground up remake of the original title, for those that are new to this type of game, it's very, very difficult to understand really what to do at first, because it's not like your typical game where you would use the analog sticks in this case, or the controller, which you can do to move from left to right. The problem you have is that when you turn a corner, the car doesn't necessarily turn as such. You have to use the shoulder buttons in order to turn the camera to get the car to turn on its axis, so that you can get the full rotation to get the car to move around, which is very, very confusing. Now, I've never played the original game, so I don't know how that would have worked back then. I'd imagine it wouldn't have been the same as this is, so it was a different kind of gameplay mechanic that they tried to put into this one. But in my own opinion, while the game does look nice and does have some nice graphics, this type of control style with having to change the camera to get around corners, for me it kind of lets it down. I think it's definitely one of the worst parts of the game, because the game is fast paced in nature. It has a lot of really fast paced elements, and it increases in speed as you play, again with the various power ups that you pick up. So you have to time the button presses in order to move the camera, and if you're not a well versed player with these type of games, you will lose out very, very quickly. It can be very frustrating, and plus if you hit other cars or they hit you, which 9 times out of 10 they will always hit you, they always seem to want to hit you when you're on the track, it completely spins you out and sends you bouncing off the walls like as if you were in a pinball machine. So that in itself can just lead to the overall chaos that you'll experience within the game. Like, it's not a bad entry, like it has some really nice ideas, but I think it could have been executed better, and I think it could have been made in a way that would have been easier for the casual gamer to pick up and play, especially if you're coming at this from an absolute beginner, as this game is not beginner friendly at all. There's just too much going on to make it too confusing for most people, and it will drive you crazy. I remember this game was added to the Sega Classics collection that would have been released in other regions, and it had the likes of this, there was Space Harrier, there was Virtua Racing, there was also Outrun, Golden Axe, and even Alien Syndrome, and I think there was a couple of other games on it. And if I'll be honest, this was the game that I pretty much avoided. I just found it too confusing and too frustrating to really enjoy. Like I said, it does have some nice elements, but the control system really lets it down. It will drive a lot of players crazy. Now, I can't say for certain how the original game way back in the day would have played. I'd say it probably did play like this to some degree. Mind you, it would have had different style of graphics, and it is an interesting decision, but again, it's not as easy to pick up and play compared to more mainstream arcade games on the system. And even from my own personal experience, I had a Sega Master System growing up. I pretty much grew up with the Sega Master System, and when I got my first Master System, one of the first games I got, and it was Super Monaco GP as part of the Master Games collection. You had World Soccer and Columns on it as well. I remember playing Super Monaco GP a ton back then, and it was tough, but I really enjoyed it, and you could play it 2-player like with split screen, but it was very, very different from this style of game, even going on years later to playing Super Monaco GP as part of one of the Mega Games collections, and again, it was very, very different compared to this version of the game. So it really just depends on your own preferences. Now, I like the games and the versions that I played, but playing this one here, having gone back and playing this remastered edition, while it does have some nice features and nice touches. It's just the control system for me that lets it down. It's too fiddly and too annoying really for it to be enjoyable, which is a pity. But it is what it is. Again, it's a remaster of a classic. It is what you make of it. Some people can really master these type of games, others maybe not so much. But just be mindful that with games like this, you do need to have quick reflexes in order to gain any sort of enjoyment out of it. But for those that are looking to play something that's on a casual level, you might be best to avoid this one. But I would love to know your thoughts of Super Monaco GP for PlayStation 2, or did you even play the original way back years ago? I'd love to hear whatever stories you do have of the game, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to be updated of future videos. And if you would like to see more content around other games like this that were also released on the PS2, then you can check out the playlist on the screen to see more of those games in action. And I will see you all in the next one.